Hey everybody, welcome back to Cheyenne Shares Shabbat. And I do have a special edition that I am doing this week. It's a little bit more personal, and it is about me sharing my love-hate relationship with the church that I actually grew up in. So for those of you who might not know this about me, I grew up as a Seventh Day Adventist, and I am like 5th generation Seventh Day Adventist. And also, not only did I grow up Seventh Day Adventist, but I also went to all Seventh Day Adventist schools all the way through university. And I was very actively involved in church and in school. So with that being said, I feel like I'm very qualified to talk about this topic and the subject today on my love-hate relationship with the Christian denomination that I grew up in. I do want to give a disclaimer about this video. This video is not to bash the Seventh Day Adventist Church. And the reason why I even titled it the way I did, which is my love-hate, is because I'm going to start off with all the things that I love about the Seventh Day Adventist Church. And then I'm going to go on about, some of the cons or things that I feel like maybe I don't agree with as much. But all in all, I do want to just have this as my sharing experience. Maybe some of you guys who are out in the crowd might have some relatable experiences like me. What I have realized is that at the end of the day, there are many churches, no matter what denomination you are in, that maybe have some things that you might agree on, maybe some things that you feel like could be better. But to me, at least where I'm at in my own personal walk with God, church is not based on a denomination. It is based on your own personal walk with God. I don't like to put people into boxes. I feel like the church is the people. And so I don't see or view Christians as, oh, there goes a Mormon, there goes a Baptist. I see Christians as individual people that all have their own personal relationship and walk with God. And I don't think that Jesus or God is coming back for one specific denomination. I think that he's coming back for a people, a remnant. And those are going to be the followers of Christ who are following him with all the light that they have. So with that being said, this is just my personal experience, and I do feel like it is important to kind of share it because it does tie into Cheyenne Shares Shabbat and where I'm at on my own spiritual journey. Hopefully you guys will be able to gain some golden nuggets from this and also just know a little bit more about me. So without further ado, the first thing that I really do love about the Seventh Day Adventist Church is their diet. So Loma Linda University, or Loma Linda, California, is one of the blue zones of the earth. And for those of you guys who do not know what blue zones are, they are areas in the world where the people live the longest. And so the population in Loma Linda is predominantly Seventh Day Adventist. It's where Loma Linda University is located. They also have a hospital there. And most of the people eat plant-based, or a good majority of them eat plant-based or believe in vegetarianism. We'll say that, or what they call lacto-ovo-vegetarianism, which is basically eating plant-based foods with the exception of eggs, no meat. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this goes hand in hand with, different studies that have come out, which obviously show that the more fruits and vegetables that you eat, obviously, the more healthier your body is just naturally going to be. Most of your saturated fats, which is what's causing most of our chronic diseases, come from animal products like meat and dairy. So obviously, for those Christian Bible believers out there, if you're eating more like Daniel in the Bible, and he even proved this himself, you will be smarter and live longer and look better. So one of the things that I really feel like Seventh Day Adventists have coined themselves for is their diet and just trying to eat very healthy and emphasizing that. And I think that's very important because I do believe that when you are trying to be a Christian and when God says to keep your temple clean, he doesn't just mean outwardly, he also means inwardly. He doesn't mean, with drugs or just sex, but also like taking care of your temple, exercising and all of those things like that, eating and nutrition. So diet is something that I really feel like I've learned a lot from the Seventh Day Adventist Church. Education. Once again, I did grow up in predominantly majority all Seventh Day Adventist schools and institutions. And while I don't see anything wrong with public school education, I do feel like going to a school where they did observe the Sabbath or have activities centered around the Sabbath made it a lot easier for me as someone who does believe in the Sabbath or keeping the Sabbath to be able to get my homework assignments done, to be able to not feel so isolated when, my friends are saying they are wanting to go out, but maybe I can't go out because I keep the Sabbath and they don't. Whereas I was able to be around other people that also felt like this was important. Assignments were never due on Saturdays. There were never any tests on late Friday nights or anything like that. So it just made it much easier for me as a student. The activities in the school were never on the Sabbaths to kind of navigate and engage my way through that. And I feel like that made my experience as a student so much better. Once again, being a Sabbath keeper. But even if, I wasn't a Sabbath keeper, I do just feel like Christian education in general is something definitely to be upheld, especially in today's society where a lot of schools now are teaching children that, Jesus is a myth and the Bible is not real. And I can speak from my own personal experience from going to a college class at a community college near my house, and literally one of the teachers saying to the students that he felt like the Bible and the stories in it were not based on facts. So just having that education, I feel like, was very helpful, for me and kept me grounded as a young adult. Third thing that I really do love about the Seventh Day Adventist Church is their tithing system. So a lot of different churches or denominations, kind of the way the tithe works is whatever comes in the pot is divvied out how, the people who are above or heads of that church see fit. Whereas in the Seventh Day Adventist Church, it doesn't matter how many people you have that are a part of your church. It doesn't matter how much money your church is bringing in. All pastors are still going to get paid the same at the end of the day because the money doesn't go directly to them. It goes to the conference, and then the conference divvies the money back out to the different pastors. And if you think about it, this was very similar to kind of how it was in the Bible. There was no priests that were just taking all the money for themselves. It was divided up among the different priests, when they had the sanctuary. And so I think that just kind of helps a lot with greed, and kind of helps with that political mindset of churches and how sometimes they can do certain things to get more money or hire certain people. And sometimes church can start to become less about the word and preaching and healing the sick, and more about how much money can we make, what's the most entertaining thing, and less based on God. Fourth thing that I really loved about the Seventh Day Adventist Church is Pathfinders. And so I was only in Pathfinders for a little bit, But basically what Pathfinders is very similar to Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, except for it's basically like unisex. It's both. And they have several different summer camps all around the United States that Pathfinders can go to. They teach you a lot of the same skills that one would learn in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. You get badges, you learn survival skills, you go camping, and it's just a really great experience to put your children in that, especially, when you want them to not probably get into other things. You can have your children join Pathfinders and they can gain not only friendships, but so many cool skills along the way. So that's another cool thing that I think that the Seventh Day Adventist Church has is Pathfinders. The fifth thing that the Seventh Day Adventist Church has that I've always loved is their hospital system. Seventh Day Adventists are known for having hospitals throughout the United States. In Florida, California, we have some here in Georgia. And these different hospital systems basically are known for just trying to promote, once again, that healthy nutrition and, promoting those other 8 laws of health that are upheld in the Seventh Day Adventist Church. And so one of the things that I was told by one of my professors is that, one way to bring people into the church is through healing. If you can't bring someone in immediately or automatically through the Bible or through theology, one of the best ways to bring in people is when they're sick, because when are people most vulnerable? When they are sick. And so by helping people learn more about nutrition and by promoting health and also God at the same time, the hospital systems that Seventh-day Adventists have been extremely influential. And also there is a couple of studies about some of those nutritional things that are taught in the hospitals. So very cool. And of course that would be the term coined as Advent Health. The sixth thing that I really think is awesome is the mission work within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, I've never personally went out overseas or anything like that to do mission work with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but I do know that in the educational system, they do have those opportunities for students to learn abroad, do mission work abroad, study abroad, and while also, just being a part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and promoting, God's work. And so once again, I do think that that's really cool, really awesome. I think I looked up on a website one time and I was looking at the different churches, and one of the things that they did have on there was that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was, I think, if not one of the most culturally diverse churches in the world, only because of, I would really say, the mission work and them having people go all over the world, whether it's to Asia or Africa, Europe, just a lot of missionaries spreading the gospel. The seventh thing that I feel like really made a huge impact in my life was the camp meetings. So Seventh-day Adventists also have what they call different camp meetings that go on throughout the year. Some of these camp meetings can be for couples, maybe they're for families, but they'll be held at in different states. Also, it could be, smaller camp meetings, larger camp meetings, but it's really awesome. I've been to some of these and remember going to some of these with my parents when I was younger. And really, you just get to see Seventh-day Adventists come in from all around the United States or maybe around the world. And they have different preachers preaching at these camp meetings, and you get to meet new people. And so it's just very tight-knit, and it's really cool. They have different, little workshops you can go to. And so it's a really cool experience. Usually at these camp meetings, they'll have what they call an ABC bookstore. And in that ABC bookstore, there'll be like different Seventh-day Adventist literature that you can purchase, and maybe even some different veggie meats that Seventh-day Adventists have that are based out of, started originally in Loma Linda, California, but it's just a really cool experience. Usually they'll have like different healthy foods and things that you can buy. Another thing that was huge for me was friendships. Once again, because I did go to Seventh-day Adventist schools all the way from, like kindergarten up, with the exception of a couple of years here and there, but pretty much kindergarten through university, I went to Seventh-day Adventist schools. One of the things that I would say that I really gained from that experience was my friendships. I am still really good friends with the girls that I met to this day, that I have met at my university. They have been really supportive of me going through my spiritual journey, and I go to them for advice about things before I post them, and I just love them. They're awesome girls. One of the things, like I said, that made it very easy for me was that I have these women that value the Sabbath overall, right? Like, it doesn't matter if they agree on every last little detail spiritually, but I have these Christian friends that I made that I can go to that have an understanding of who I am, and I can relate to them. And even though, they're kind of spread out in different states, I know that I can always give them a call and enjoy my conversations with them, and it'll be like no time has passed. So that was one of the things that I really feel like I have gained from, the educational system and the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is these lifelong friends. Knowledge of people. So one of the things that I feel like the Seventh-day Adventist Church has, and that I've learned early on being a Seventh-day Adventist, is that usually they will teach their children from very young about the Bible or Bible stories. And if anyone ever usually goes to like a Seventh-day Adventist church, they have what they call children's story before the pastor gets up and does his sermon. And in these children's stories, sometimes the person will give someone from the church will get up and tell the children like a little Christian story. And what you'll notice is that when they ask some of the kids like theological questions or Bible stories, a lot of these kids are very well read and know their word very young, early on. And so I think that just speaks as a testament to the good work that the parents are doing, with their kids early on. Not just, saying I'm a Christian, but also really truly teaching their children the word as they're growing up. Okay, so I've basically just shared with you guys all the things that I personally really, really do love about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, I think it's only fair that I kind of dive into some of the things that I disagree with. Before I do dive into that, I kind of do want to be very open and honest with you and have a disclaimer that a lot of these things that I'm mentioning, not all Seventh-day Adventists feel this way. It is only some Seventh-day Adventists that do these things. So keep in mind that some of the things that I'm mentioning do not apply to every Seventh-day Adventist you meet. And I'll go over which things those are. So the very first thing that I want to mention is wine drinking. And this is pretty much straight across the board. So one of the things that I never really thought about until I was older and remarried to someone who didn't grow up Seventh-day Adventist is that one of the baptismal vows that they have for you to be baptized in the church is for you to abstain from wine drinking. Now, keep in mind, I could give a care less if I did or did not have to drink wine for the rest of my life. Have I drunk wine? Yes. Do Do I care to drink it? No. But at the same time, I know that it definitely is not a sin based on what the Bible states. I know that the Bible clearly states that you should be drinking it within moderation and that you should not be getting drunk. However, there is nowhere in the Bible that states you will go to hell if you drink wine. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of verses that people are drinking wine. And if you look up the Hebrew root word for those verses, you will notice that, yes, it is talking about actual wine. And so because of that, I don't really feel like that should be a vow for a person to have to commit to in order to get baptized into a church, because it's not something that is a requirement by God. So if God isn't requiring it, then why should a church do that? Second thing for me, really this is subjective, is jewelry, makeup, long skirts, and music. The reason why I'm coupling all of these things, and I'll kind of go over them in a couple one by one, is because not all Seventh Day Adventists feel this way. I grew up where my mother could give a care less if I wore jewelry, but my father did. So he always told me I could not wear jewelry, and that if I was wearing jewelry, that's something that I shouldn't be doing. And if I did, I would go to hell. Keep in mind, there are a lot of Seventh-day Adventists that feel this way, but there are a lot of Seventh-day Adventists that don't. I'd probably say a good majority don't. But the issue that I have is that there are a lot of leaders that still teach this. And so it could just be very misleading for people who are new to the church or new to the faith when you have a ton of people saying it doesn't matter, but then a ton of people who are leaders like Doug Batchelor or Joe Cruz or Ellen G. White who are making it seem like it is an issue. My thing is, I personally could give a care less, once again, very similar to the wine, if I never had to wear jewelry for the rest of my life. As a matter of fact, I'm married and I don't even have my wedding ring on right now because I don't genuinely care that much about jewelry. However, I don't think that jewelry in any way, shape, or form is going to lead you to hell. I think what can lead a person to hell is vanity, but that has to do with the person's heart and the wearer of the jewelry, not necessarily the jewels within themselves. Which is why, if you read the Bible and you go through the Bible, you will notice that there are a ton of stories where biblical characters are wearing jewelry, and God does not seem to have any issue or problem with it at all. Makeup. Same thing. I personally don't care. Like, I like makeup, but not really. Like, I'm not a big makeup wearer. I've literally had the same liquid makeup for like about 3 years now because I just don't wear that much makeup. And if I do, it's because I'm going out, or maybe it's the weekend, or maybe I'm going to church. I just don't wear a lot of makeup. And to me, I don't see anything wrong with a person putting on a little eyeshadow or putting on a little bit of mascara if they just want to look dolled up because they're going somewhere sweet. Where I think, once again, makeup becomes an issue is when you start adding in vanity. And that has to do with the heart thing, not necessarily a soul salvational thing. And if you wear this, you are hellbound, right? But there are some Seventh-day Adventists that feel like makeup should not be worn. And when I was going to a Seventh-day Adventist school, there were some guys who were going to school to be pastors that felt very strongly about that. And you know what? They are entitled to have that as their opinion for anyone that they're married to. If they don't want their wives to wear makeup and their wives don't want to wear makeup, good for you. I think where it becomes dangerous is when you start taking your opinions and making them like the facts of the Bible. Once again, another thing that I mentioned was like the long skirts and the modesty. I 100% promote modesty. Have I had issues with modesty in the past? Absolutely. Am I still working on it? Absolutely. I feel like for the most part, I have the basics down. Like you don't want your boobs to be hanging out. You don't want your belly to be hanging out or your booty to be hanging out, or you don't want to wear skin tight stuff, right? Like all the basics, right? I feel like as Christian women, we shouldn't want to be a stumbling block for our Christian brothers, which makes sense. When you start getting into, you need to wear a long skirt and it needs to be down to your ankles and you need to wear dresses every day or whatever. When you start getting into stuff like that, that's where I feel like I'm at a disconnect. And once again, not all Seventh-day Adventists are like this. There are a good majority of them that do not give a care less. But there are a good majority of them that do. And even if they don't feel like it's so salvational, if they are a guy and maybe they are a theology major or a pastor, they might just want their wives to look that way to kind of go along with the image. And the reason why I am saying that is because when I used to go to a Seventh-day Adventist university, I would really enjoy sitting with the theology majors and the pastoral students that were guys, and I loved talking to them about God. But I felt like there was a disconnect maybe for some of the guys that were interested in me, or I was interested in talking to them, only because they were wanting like an Ellen G. White Beyonce. And that's not me, right? Like I'm great with the whole modesty thing, but I don't feel like I have to wear a skirt down to my ankles in order to be considered to be modest. Maybe my mindset will change on that in the future. Maybe it won't. You know, I think that that's something that I will have to go to God about. I will say that modesty is a hard topic only because there really isn't an instruction manual or guide in the Bible that specifically tells women exactly what that should look like. But I think for the most part, us women know when we're wearing something that can be known as a stumbling block to another guy. We know that, and I feel like the Spirit leads people into giving them that feeling like, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be wearing this. Maybe I should change this. Especially if you're getting a lot of attention from the opposite sex. Okay, moving on, music. Once again, another subjective one. Not all Seventh-day Adventists teach this, but you will go to a good amount of Seventh-day Adventist churches where they might not have drums, or they might not have other instruments, because they feel like having certain beats or certain tones or sounds in their music is not of the Lord. And I literally have had a pastor tell me that God does not condone certain sounds or beats, and that really classical music and things that have classical instruments are really the only sorts of music that I should be listening to. So once again, keep in mind, not all pastors that are Seventh-day Adventists that are like this. I can literally go to Atlanta right now to a Seventh-day Adventist church and they'll have every kind of instrument in the world. But you will meet some Seventh-day Adventist churches where this is a thing. However, one of the things that I will say about all the things that I just mentioned, the jewelry, the makeup, the, all of that, modesty, music, a good amount of Seventh-day Adventist leaders who are well known in the church that preach on Seventh-day Adventist topics, like Joe Cruz. He's passed away now, but he made a book called Creeping Compromise, and Doug Batchelor. They teach these things. So it's highly upheld in the Seventh-day Adventist Church to believe these things. One of the things that I think is a huge one for me, and also a lot of people or anyone who's interested in becoming Seventh-day Adventist, is Ellen G. White. She is someone who has a lot of great writings, and I have read them. Okay? Being fifth generation Seventh-day Adventist, I've read my fair share of of Ellen G. White books. Great Controversy, Steps to Christ. The list can go on, right? I've had my fair share, but there are a lot of things that she says in some of her books that are opinionated and they are not biblical. And a lot of Seventh-day Adventist leaders or people in the church will take it on the same level as the Bible. For instance, the last church that I left, my then pastor had told me that in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, if I were to be Seventh-day Adventist, I would need to take her writings and look at them as extra light beyond the Bible. Once again, that was just him, because if you go to some other Seventh-day Adventists, they might not feel that way or believe that way. But when you have a good handful of leaders taking someone's writings who don't go hand in hand, a lot of them, with exactly what the Bible says, whether it's on meat eating, whether it's on jewelry wearing, whether it's on the sort of music you should listen to, whether it's on interracial marriages or women voting. When you have a person like that who has a lot of opinions and people want to take the things that they have read from this person and copy and paste it to their lives, that is where it becomes a huge problem. Okay. Another one is the racial division here in the South for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. When I was in California, I did not see this as much, but here in the South, they have what they call different conferences, which are different divisions that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is broken up in. And they have what they call the South Atlantic Conference, which is separate from other conferences. Like, for instance, Georgia Cumberland Conference, I believe, is the one, is the conference that I'm in, I think. But the South Atlantic Conference is like pretty much just black churches in that conference. And I always thought that was really weird that like the churches are more racially divided out here in the South, because as a Christian church or denomination, I think that we should definitely be up to par with the times. And, you know, there's not a lot of culturally diverse churches out here, in my opinion. A lot of them are like all black or Korean or Hispanic. And there are some, but it's only like a handful. So it doesn't give you a lot to choose from. So yeah, that's been my experience of Seventh-day Adventist churches here in the South. And the very last one is the 1,000-year period. The 1,000-year period is something that I am still closely studying, but if you are a Seventh-day Adventist, the 1,000-year period is something that you would know as a 1,000-year reign, where we as Christians who made it in end times basically will be reigning with Jesus in heaven for 1,000 years. And from what I have learned, as I'm still continuing to go through my studies, the Seventh Day Adventist Church is the only church that believes that 1,000-year period will be in heaven and not on earth. All the rest of the Christian denominations believe that it's going to be here on earth because there's a lot of scriptures that kind of go more into detail about earthly things that will be happening during that 1,000-year period. However, the Seventh-day Adventist has their own unique doctrine about the 1,000-year reign being in heaven and not on earth. I do think Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe that the 1,000-year reign is in heaven, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're like a branch out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But whatever, don't quote me on that. That's just one thing that I feel like doctrinally was a little bit confusing, and I'm still trying to learn about, but is a little bit different in the Seventh-day Adventist Church compared to other church denominations. So now that I've kind of went through this whole spiel of the good, the bad, the ugly of the church that I grew up in, I want to kind of finish off and say to you guys that I have learned so much from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I am so thankful for all of the things that I was taught growing up from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. However, as I continue to grow in my relationship with God, as a still Sabbath keeper, but someone who is also just a Christian, I don't think that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is God's true church, and I mentioned that earlier in my video. I believe that the church is the people. I don't believe that God is coming back for one denomination. I think he's coming back for believers that are doing their best to follow him and his word. And so with that being said, I think for me right now and my husband, where we're at with our relationship with God is we are just taking one day at a time, and we are taking our time to study and learn. Does that mean I might never go back to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? No. Does that mean I might not try to find other churches to go to, because church is amazing and it's good to have that spiritual community? No. What that means is that this is where I'm at currently on my journey, and I am excited to share this experience with you guys. Maybe some of you guys who are listening are not Seventh-day Adventists, and you wanted to know a little bit more about what that entails and the ins and outs of it, the pros and the cons. And maybe some of you guys who are watching this already are, and like me, you're very well versed and read on the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and you know a lot of what I'm talking about. Either way, I hope that this video was beneficial and relatable to anyone who's watching it, and hopefully if you guys did learn something or take something from this video, it's that we as Christians, no matter what denomination you're in, should join together to make a community, because honestly, I think that's what God would want us to do at the end of the day. If you guys are interested in wanting to know more or have any questions about future videos you'd like to see or things you'd like me to talk about, please shoot the questions down in the comment section. Totally down to hear your guys' opinions. I will see you guys later. I hope that you guys like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate your support, and it also helps get my videos out into the algorithm on YouTube. So without further ado, guys, I will see you soon on Cheyenne Share Shabbat. Thanks so much, and have an awesome day.